Welcome to the Municipal Update, end of the year here, 2023, for the City of Hartford. We have our City Administrator, Stephen Volkert, here. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you.
I'm holding in my hands the budget summary for the upcoming 2024 year. Are there any things that you would like our viewers to know that we're rounding out the year in? Anything that we've, accomplished, finished?
As far as 2023, I think some of the big things that we accomplished was the completion of the Centennial Park project, which really was we started it back in 2019 with some parts to it. So it has been 4 years since we completed that project, that it took us to complete the total project. That included the bridge, the pedestrian bridge that went out, of course, doing the north side of the mill pond, the building itself, the new park features, updating the pavilion that was also already there, the new parking lots, all that stuff, the new walkway. So all that stuff it's taken us, like I said, 4 years to get to completion. So that's kind of one of the big things that were different in 2023. 2023 we had 2 road reconstruction projects, which again is our normal. We do normally two total road reconstruction projects. So that was a normal thing for us. And then again, just we're in this phase in which we're replacing some of our very long-standing department heads who are retiring now. And like every corporation, that all of that knowledge that goes with it when they retire, bringing in new people to take over. I mean, it's a part of the challenge for 2023, and will continue in 2024.
Okay. The budget summary is online, and
Yep.
I want our viewers to really take advantage of that. If they have any questions, and they certainly can come to these meetings. And that website is?
www.ci.hartford.wi.us, and they can go to that. That always has to, by state statutes, has to be on the website. It has to be presentable. Copies of it have to be available at the clerk's office 15 days prior to the public hearing. So we have a preliminary meeting in October, and then we publish. They approve the budget for publication, and then 15 days have to lapse before we have the public hearing, and then the approval of the final budget in early November. So it's always available. Interestingly enough, it's the biggest decision that the council makes. Yet we probably have nobody in the audience who's like, what are you spending money on? What are you not spending money on? But it's really rare that we ever have anyone show up. So we hope that means that people are very satisfied with where their tax dollars are going.
And there's no new tax increase for 2024?
Those 99% of the people live in Washington County. Their city taxes are staying, the mill rate is staying the same.
Okay. So inside the budget, you obviously, again, talked about some retirements that are coming up. And what type of process is that? Is the department head process different than, like myself, a standard part-time employee?
Yeah. So it does. It can, a lot of times, a department head or an administrator, that process can be a little more elongated. It can include different aspects to the interview process. It really depends upon the organization, the group that is running that.
Okay.
So, for instance, we have the retirement of our fire chief. That is basically overseen by the Police and Fire Commission. Same thing when we had our police chief retire about 5 years ago, I guess it's been now, when Dave Groves retired. Same process, same group that runs the process. Our staff is there to assist them. The human resource staff is there to assist them with the process. But for the most part, at the end of the day, it's their decision moving forward. So, whereas an individual who's coming in on the ground level, we may just simply take applications, do a interview process, and then pick somebody and move from there. So we also recognize too that what difference is that a lot of times with department heads, they have to give notice if they are offered the job, and they have to give a longer notice. So it can be 30, 60 days before they actually start after giving notice. Versus a entry-level position, they may have to give 2 weeks notice, which is customary.
Okay, so the library director, you're still looking for one, that also falls back on the library board?
Yeah, the library board decides how it's going to go, the job description, the job posting, which is different. And then they go through the process. Again, they are offered the services of our human resource department to help them with the process, but they will end up making the final decision.
Okay. So inside the notes here for the 2024 budget, and I don't have to get too detailed into this until I see you in the next quarter coming up here, but just some of the key takeaways you mentioned in the summary here is fire EMT presence and getting more employees, hopefully.
Yeah, so it is extremely rare where in local government in which you can add additional people, because keep in mind, due to levy limits and expenditure restraint, the amount of additional expenditures or additional levy in which you impose is really capped by the state. And so because of that, if you get enough money, let's just say $100,000, that's a payroll plus the benefits and everything else that goes with it, equipment on some people. $100,000 could be at the cost of what one employee could be, the total all-in cost. Anyways, when for us to be able to have an additional $100,000 to spend on an employee, extremely rare. Because the state has opened up the levy, the state shared revenue under the Act 12 plan, we now have received additional $380,000, which we'll get from the state. That's on top of what we were already getting. Now, that seems like a lot of money, $380,000. Keep in mind, we were getting about $700,000, so we'll now get about $1 million. However, that still falls far short of what we used to get about 20 years ago. We used to get $1.5 million in shared revenue. And again, a reminder, what is shared revenue? Shared revenue is sales tax. So when you go out, you buy something over at Piggly Wiggly and you pay a 5.5% sales tax. 5% of that the majority of that goes to the state. That's state shared revenue. Then they share it back with local municipalities. The other 0.5% goes to the county. And what they do with that, again, is up to the county board. So the state has allowed us to increase the amount of that sales tax sharing that we get to where we're, again, getting about $1 million from the state. By having the additional $350,000, $380,000, we are actually able to not only increase our staffing by the 3 new firefighter EMTs, but also an additional police officer come April, and then 2 additional positions. One in building maintenance for all the buildings that we maintain for the city, and then also a person who will be here the full year, which is partially parks, partially engineering. So they were in the budget for 23 to be starting in July. They'll now be full-time for the whole year. So it's in essence 1 additional person. So having the ability to add 6 people, it will never happen. It's never happened in my 25 years of being in this business. It'll never happen again.
Interesting. Because I know the other cities that have been adding on to their departments, all of our surrounding departments are adding on.
Well, yeah, those that can, meaning there's always been a way to add additional staff to police and fire, or to anywhere, which is going to referendum. And so you can go to referendum and ask the voters, are you willing for us to raise the levy, increase your taxes, to accomplish this goal or that goal? So I want to add 3 or 5, or in the city of West Bend, they were adding 9 additional staff members to add additional shift to their firefighters, fire department. So you couldn't do that, and as they did in West Bend, but it is not necessarily across the board a welcomed idea of going to referendum to raise taxes. Conservative communities will say no, they don't. They never want to talk about raising taxes. So you really got to abide by whatever the absolute maximum that your limit will allow.
So last year or the beginning of this year when we started this municipal update, you talked about not raising taxes for 2024, but most likely 2025.
Well, 2025, 2026, if we need to, it's based on debt. So just like at your house, you have debt costs, your
Right.
car insurance, your house, mortgage, things like that. So purchases that you've already made that you have a debt on now. Because the council has, again, we continue to look at increased costs to do road reconstruction projects, to do other projects that they have a request for. The cost to do those projects are greatly going up. And so just based on debt, if we are going to raise taxes, it's not an operation, but would be on debt. And again, the council has not agreed to raise taxes for debt, but if they are going to do that, they would do it by either cutting the budget, not doing as many roads or whatever, or again, yeah, raising taxes to accomplish the same goals they've always had.
Okay. You're gonna be securing stormwater compliances, and that, for people that don't understand that, kind of explain.
Yeah, so the DNR has all communities do what's called an MS4 permit. An MS4 permit is for stormwater and the release of stormwater into mills, into ponds, streams, rivers, and lakes. So as you know, most of our stormwater will end up going through a series of tunnels in pipes to get into the Rubicon River. That's where we discharge into. One of the things that we always are constantly looking to do is monitor the water in which we're putting back into the Rubicon River. The DNR has had a huge push towards reductions in different types of chemicals. Phosphorus is the number one. And so phosphorus can be a lot of times found in items within like your lawn fertilizers, fertilizers in a farm. It can be digested by farm animals and
Sure.
then released into
Sure.
the farmland. The runoff creates this phosphorus. What does phosphorus do? Well, just like it does for your lawn, it helps to grow things like, again, lake blooms and things like that, which contaminate lakes. And so that's one of the biggest things that the DNR is doing. And so for us to pass and get our license for the DNR permit, MS4 permit, we need to do everything we can to reduce the amount of phosphorus that we put back into the Rubicon River. And we are not unique by any stretch of the imagination. Every community is struggling with this. Every community is, how do I control it when part of the Rubicon River also serves the townships and the farmlands and everything else? We don't control like 90% of the water that goes in there. So how is it that we have to put the additional money into it? But that's the goal that we have, and for us to get our MS4 permit approved, we have to do all sorts of different things that it's very costly to try to reduce runoff.
So is the city of Hartford required to be testing the Rubicon River or the mill pond?
Yes, so part of your MS4 permit is you have to monitor the chemicals within the Rubicon River to look for such things as PFAS is another one, phosphorus is another one. These are all the two big ones really that we have to monitor the river to make sure what we're putting into it or what's in the river. We also have to do it with our wastewater. So we talk about sanitary sewer. Once it gets through all the processes at the wastewater treatment plant, we discharge again into the Rubicon River. We test that every single day, and we have to see what discharge we're leaving with it. And actually, it's interesting to know that what we discharge from the wastewater treatment plant is actually cleaner than what is in the Rubicon River itself.
That's frightening.
Yeah. Well, it's a good story because we do a great job of cleaning it.
Yeah.
But it's what they look at as being clean is very, very difficult to achieve by anybody.
Okay. I'm not going to list everything here in this summary because, again, we're going to be meeting again in the first quarter here. But you're going to be doing 2 major road construction projects in the city here.
Yep.
And then also you're going to be doing some of the alley repairs.
Yeah. So alley repairs, I mean, again, we talked about that earlier on, that major reconstruction to 2 roads is what we
Right.
budget every year. But the alley repairs is something new. Obviously, we have a number of alleys throughout the city. I think it's less than 20. And the maintenance of those is something that, again, has gone to, unknown to a lot of people because I don't live on an alley. I don't see the alleys. And so, again, kind of an out of sight, out of mind kind of situation. But at the end of the day, it was brought to our attention that some of the alleys are deteriorated to the point of greatly cracked up asphalt. Most of them do not carry utilities underneath them, so it's primarily surface issues. So we're able to then take a look at all the alleys we have. Took a look at the value of those, what the Paisley rating would be on those. That's the value, that's the observation of how that condition of those are. And then take the worst and start going one after the other and to
Okay.
address it.
And so will the citizens have any input on that? If they're saying my alley is, just
Yeah.
not good?
Obviously, they can bring up any concerns that they have. We have already done an engineering study on all of them that we have. And so everyone's going to think the one that they live by is the worst.
That's why I brought it up.
It's like gravel. Yep,
Yeah.
but actually, there's one that's worse than yours.
Yeah, okay.
And so that makes the list higher up. Same thing with roads. I live on the worst road in the entire city. It's barely travelable by horse and buggy. But when you look at it, we look at not only what is above surface, so the blacktop, we also look at below surface. So do we have utilities that are having a lot of water main breaks or sewer crackings or anything else of that nature in which underneath there's a lot of issues. And a lot of times that will drive more so than the surface. But again, we look at all 3 of those issues and then determine, again, put a ranking together.
Okay. And closing out this update, I just would like to talk about the debt coming to a close in 2024, and that's going to be a big change in closing that revenue bonds.
Yeah, so.
Explain what that is.
Yeah, sure. So just like at your house, you have a mortgage, and it could be a 20-year mortgage. When our utilities, water, sewer, electric, take out debt, those are called revenue bonds because we have revenue behind it to pay for it. And so we have a situation where our utilities will all be paid off of all their debt in 2024. We'll make our last debt payments to those. So those will be all running at a much more efficient, I won't say profit level because we don't make profit in utilities, but they'll be running much more efficiently financially after 2024. So that's a great thing to have 3 utilities with no debt. It'll put us in a better position and a great position moving forward.
Okay, so then that is really going to be an asset to the upcoming budget for 2025.
It will help at least the utilities budget portion of it. Yeah, because utilities, again, is its own business. It's not a part of the general fund. So their business, so to speak, will be at a better financial situation than they have been in the past.
Great.
Yeah.
Anything else you want our viewers to know? I know you're always welcoming the citizens to come to the meetings.
Yeah, come to the meetings. If you have questions, call us. It's interesting. I find a lot of people will go on Facebook or one of the websites, and they will voice their opinions, positively, negatively. But if you have something, a real concern, call us.
Yeah.
I get so few phone calls from residents. I get so few emails from residents that escalate to my level. And I don't mean that as it's just the fact of normally they'll maybe contact their elected official, which is great. That's exactly what you should do. But then sometimes they're able to answer the questions. But yeah, so if people truly have concerns about anything, we just talked about the safety issue over at Cedar and Monroe after a recent accident. If you have issues with that, give us a call. We can tell you, we can explain to you what we're doing about that. No matter if it's your road or your neighbor or whatever it is, feel free to call us. Stop by City Hall. If you're not available during the normal business hours of 7:30 and 4:15, 4:30, email me, whatever. I mean, we're always there to answer your questions. And like I said, if you have any other concerns, every city council meeting, every meeting that we have has a session in which people can come and give their comments. They get 3 glorious minutes, as the mayor always says, and to voice your opinion on whatever's bothering you or whatever you want to talk about.
Great. Well, thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
And to our viewers, as always, thank you for watching.